So you couldn't quote me on the safety margin, but the sub is capable of diving much deeper than it does. The weak link is actually the titanium, the grade of the titanium in the hemispheres, not the carbon.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Until now we focused almost entirely on Stockton Rush and to some extent on P.H. Nargile. But there's a third person close to the center of operations we probably need to talk about, Kyle Bingham. Bingham is described on Deadline as OceanGate's mission director, and that he oversaw both of the first two successful expeditions to Titanic in 2021 and 2022. What Deadline doesn't mention is that he was also there in 2023. According to Deadline, Bingham will star in a special docuseries as the hero of the OceanGate story. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. By the way, I'll be doing a rare live stream on the Team Peachtree channel. I'll put a link to that in the description. We're going to be talking about how bad we are at subtlety. And this is not really pointing a finger at you, it's a pointing a finger at me. And I'm going to be showing you some photographs. Should be quite an interesting episode. Incidentally, I've written a book on Vincent van Gogh, and it sort of ties in with, do we really know what happened when he lost his ear? Do we really know exactly what the circumstances were in terms of how he died? Again, how good are we at subtlety? And if you think about Titan as well, how good were they, the people in the staff, in the crew, about subtlety, about the noises this craft was making? If you're enjoying this episode, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So according to Deadline, this docuseries will chronicle Kyle Bingham's submersible dives around the globe from the depths of North America's Puget Sound and the Hudson Canyon to the Bahamas' Abaco coast. According to Mind Riot founder Jonathan Kesey, our series is about a hero and a vision for exploration that is beyond courageous. And so I think it's just natural for the thought to occur to you to just say, who is the hero of this story? Is it someone from OceanGate? Is it somebody that we've overlooked? Is it Kyle Bingham? So this is going to be a multi-episode docuseries that is going to touch on the OceanGate Titan tragedy where 5 lives were lost. According to Mind Riot's head of European content, the Titan tragedy is reminiscent of the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster of 1986. It's a tragedy I'll never forget. So, just to be clear, Kyle Bingham served as OceanGate's mission director for the last 5 years, from 2018 to June 2023. In other words, right up until the catastrophic implosion of Titan, which, as we know, led to OceanGate closing shop and shutting down. But you wouldn't know about Bingham's long affiliation with OceanGate on his LinkedIn, certainly not at a casual glance. For example, OceanGate is not listed under experience, where Bingham owns an expedition company, a coffee shop, and a climbing charity. And those are listed obviously under that category. Under education, we see qualifications in firefighting and paramedics. So, is this guy the second in command? Well, according to this hierarchy of authority, no. But this is OceanGate. Perhaps Titan is different. Second in command might be the wrong term. Maybe we're framing it in the wrong way. But it does seem that Bingham was Stockton Rush's right-hand man in some way, or if he wasn't, he was close to that. In a video provided anonymously during a team briefing on board the Titan, you can see Bingham is seated beside Stockton Rush on his right-hand side. I think this is him. The Doom 2023 expedition also features on Bingham's Instagram account, but in a fairly subtle way. I do think his Instagram provides at a glance a very quick sense of who this critical crew member was, what his background is, where his expertise lay. He seems to be experienced in adventure travel, especially in mountainous settings. Bingham seems like a nice guy, young with an adventurous spirit. 5 months ago, in other words, shortly before Titan's final season, a channel calling itself Snow Isle Libraries interviewed Bingham. I think it was March this year. He's described in the video as OceanGate's expedition manager and mission director. About 40 minutes into the hour-long presentation, Bingham participates in a Q&A, and the first question is about safety. Let's listen in.
If he sees the craft failed at 6,500 psi, at what level did it start to make noises? Just curious of the safety margin.
We have a pretty significant safety margin. I don't know when the events started happening, but one thing that's important with that scale model, it was a different type of construction than we've used and learned from then moving forward. So we kind of skip a little bit of history there from that third scale model. There's actually been multiple models that we've done, as well as other full scale hulls that we've built to get eventually to the full scale hull that we have now. So you couldn't quote me on the safety margin, but the sub is capable of diving much deeper than it does. The weak link is actually the titanium, the grade of the titanium in the hemispheres, not the carbon fiber.
That's really interesting. You would think it'd be the opposite.
Quite a surprising answer. Interestingly, despite being affiliated with Titan and the marketing of the trips to the Titanic, it turns out when questioned, Bingham himself has never been down to the Titanic, which is perhaps an explanation why he doesn't know or can't say when the cracking noises to the hull tend to begin. And so let's listen to him when he's asked this question, have you been down to the Titanic?
So Kyle, have you been down to Titanic?
I have not, no.
Okay.
So I've been in all of our submersibles many times. I've been in Titan in the Bahamas and here in Everett. But for me and for us, the priority is the mission specialists, the people that pay to join, and the researchers, as well as some of our team, the engineers. They're the priority.
The next thing he says is he's been on the short list, but it's hard to imagine that he'd be on a short list for 5 years. I mean, if you think about it, besides Stockton Rush, the guy who is basically supervising these expeditions, maintaining them, managing them, has no idea what it's actually like being in the environment where he's sending these tourists, these clients. As I say, even though, after being on the job for 5 years. I also personally see a few weird parallels here between Titan and Rust. Like the armorer who had dual roles and seemed inexperienced, it seems pretty incredible that Bingham was OceanGate's expedition manager and mission director, despite having no prior experience I can see in submersibles, including from OceanGate itself, in terms of these dives. One thing I think we can assume is that there's a treasure trove of footage of Titan owned by former staff members, and this seems to be the meat and potatoes that's going to be released in I'm predicting a self-reinforcing film. According to Deadline, quote, the filmmakers behind the docuseries have been given access to footage and audio recordings predating and during the tragedy and everything thereafter. While they are currently subject to a non-disclosure agreement, the filmmakers told Deadline that they, like others who were there to witness, know the extent of Kyle's heroics, which rival any action or superhero movie. Still quoting from the article, people like Kyle deserve the world's admiration, not condemnation, and that's exactly what our series will show, factually and empirically. The truth is, no one knows what we know, and we are very humbled Kyle entrusted us with this story. It also seems strange that he's being heralded as a hero in a movie or a docuseries that's being made before the investigation into this disaster, where 5 people died in an unprecedented submersible incident. It hasn't even been completed or published. So in a sense, maybe this docuseries that's coming out is jumping the gun a little. What do you think? So I'm not going to take it further than that. Just to let you know, I am still working on the 10 additional mistakes in the CNN special report. If you haven't watched part 1, I'll put a link in the description, but you can basically wait till the end of this video to get to the link to the Van Gogh letters, episode 71, where we'll talk about subtlety, and then also the link to the 10 additional mistakes in the John Bonet series. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you guys next time.